I told you Pokemon wasn't supposed to take over the world, well, you probably wouldn't believe me. But it's true. The entire franchise exists because one kid in Japan loved catching bugs. Today, Pokemon is the highest grossing entertainment franchise in the world, worth over $100 billion across games, cards, merch, shows, and plenty more. It's bigger than Mario, bigger than Star Wars, bigger than Marvel, and yes, even bigger than Hello Kitty. Yeah, so how did a simple idea about collecting tiny creatures turn into a global cultural earthquake? Let's dive into the real story of how Pokemon became the juggernaut it is today. Our story starts with Satoshi Tajiri, a quiet, curious kid growing up outside of Tokyo. He spent his childhood exploring fields, streams, forests, and catching beetles with friends. They called him Dr. Bug. But here's the part most people don't know. The place where Tajiri caught bugs? Well, it was eventually paved over by urban development. Concrete, stores, roads. So that sense of losing nature, of losing wonder, became the emotional heart of what would become Pokemon. In the late 80s, Tajiri created a tiny studio called Game Freak. It started as a homemade gaming magazine, but evolved into an entire development team. But Game Freak almost died, and more than once. Money ran out, employees worked without pay. Ken Sugimori, the artist who designed the first Pokemon, literally slept in the office. Tajiri stopped taking a salary just so others could continue eating. This was not a company destined for success. This was a group surviving on pure passion. Now, when the Game Boy launched, it had one weird accessory, the link cable. Most people thought it was only for Tetris. One cable, two kids, that's it. But Tajiri saw something different. What if creatures could travel through that cable, he thought, like insects moving between worlds? Nintendo didn't understand the pitch. Executives were confused. But Shigeru Miyamoto believed in Tajiri and helped explain the idea to the rest of Nintendo. Shout out Miyamoto, the GOAT. This strange concept eventually became Pocket Monsters. The first Pokemon games, Pokemon Red and Green, took 6 years to complete, which is insanely long for a Game Boy game. And it almost killed the team. Game Freak ran out of money, employees left, and debugging took forever. Memory limits were suffocating. But the breakthrough came when programmers found clever new ways to squeeze in more data onto those little cartridges. They managed to fit 151 Pokemon, far more than originally expected. The game barely made it over to the finish line, but it did, and we're all thankful for that. Right before release, one developer, Shigeki Morimoto, secretly added a hidden Pokemon, Mew. No announcement, no marketing, just a tiny Easter egg buried in the game's code. And the kids found out. Playground rumors exploded. Mystery, secrets, impossible creatures. Suddenly, Pokemon became the hottest topic in Japan. Mew didn't just boost the game, it became a cultural phenomenon. And as a child at school, I definitely remember the Mew behind the truck secret that never really was. Now, while this was all great and dandy for Japan, they weren't the only ones affected here, because Pokemon would soon invade America. 1998, the US launch. And Nintendo went big. The games, the anime, the trading cards, toys, commercials, strategy guides. It wasn't just a release, it was an entire ecosystem. The anime skyrocketed in popularity, even after the infamous Porygon seizure episode in Japan, which caused photosensitive reactions in hundreds of children and was banned worldwide. Or so the legend goes. Despite that, or maybe because of the controversy, Pokemon became impossible to ignore. And I personally remember watching that show every morning before school. That was the perfect way to start my day. Then came Pokemon Gold and Silver. A new region, shinies, breeding, day and night cycles, and one of the craziest facts of all, developers optimized the game's memory so well that they squeezed the entire Kanto region onto the same Game Boy cartridge. 2 full regions, 1 handheld game. We don't even get that in modern games today. It was a technical miracle. And Pokemon had officially become unstoppable. Throw me a quick like if you remember watching the Pokemon movie in theaters and seeing a Don fan, a Pokemon you were never seen before, who would go on to make up part of Gen 2. Yeah, our minds were blown when we realized we were getting a whole new generation of Pokemon beyond 151. You can't replicate that kind of excitement these days. By the early 2000s, Pokemon was everywhere. But like all giant trends, it started to fade a little. Kids got older, other card games like Yu-Gi-Oh! Stole the attention, and some adults thought it was just a passing fad. But then, 3 things helped spark a revival. First, the Game Boy Advance generation modernized the franchise. Second, online battles and competitions exploded. And third, a Google Maps April Fool's event showing Pokemon on a map helped inspire the concept behind Pokemon GO. That joke then became one of the biggest mobile games ever made. Pokemon GO wasn't just successful, it was historic. Millions played every day. Cities filled with crowds of players. Businesses paid to become Pokestops. People made friends. Some even met their future spouses, if you can believe it. It was the biggest surge of Pokemon hype since the 90s. And the momentum never stopped. Sword and Shield broke records. Scarlet and Violet became Nintendo's fastest selling games ever, despite the performance issues. And the TCG has reached new heights. Even after 25 years, Ash Ketchum finally became a world champion. Shout out Ash, he never gave up in the end. So, how did Pokemon become the biggest franchise in the world? Well, because it tapped into things humans naturally love. Collecting, competing, and connecting. Trading with friends. Walking with your buddy in Go. Opening booster packs. Sharing stories. Building memories. Pokemon is not just about collecting monsters. It's about the moments that you create along the way. And that's why it didn't just become a juggernaut. It became a part of our lives. If you enjoyed this coverage of how Pokemon became the juggernaut it is today, then drop a subscription, turn on notifications, and let me know if you want me to continue these kind of videos and include even more of a deep dive of how Pokemon got its start, and some of the things that made it so popular as it is today. But let me know what you think, and please leave some comments. Let me know what you want to see next. I appreciate you for watching. Click the like button on the way out, and hey, if you found it interesting, share it with a friend. I'd really appreciate it. But that's going to be it for now. Until next time, peace out, Poke People.